This is from Chapter 1 of Warden of Greyrock. Master Arvel was dead. There was no doubt about it. I've seen enough dead people in my life to know that men with a whacking great knife stuck between their shoulder blades do not wake up and gasp out any useful last words. Like, for instance, "Look out behind you." I knew someone was there, though. I'd known when I broke the door down, hearing Master Arvel's sudden cry, and the harsh gasping that ended almost as soon as it had begun. I'd felt the light of his mind flicker and fade, and I'd felt the heart-pounding heat of his killer's nerves, that mix of terror and urgency that said this was no practiced Rhonish assassin or warrior used to fighting for his life. Not that stabbing an overweight scholar in the back was exactly a warrior's fair and honest fight anyway. It was murder, nasty, dirty, and simple. The young Hallowlander had come here to Arvel's dingy little room on the upper floor of the tenement building to meet him. Arvel had opened the door and offered him a cup of wine before we get down to business. I'd heard that much from where I lurked behind the door to my own room across the landing before Arvel had shut them in. No matter, I'd thought. I would whip up to the flat roof where the women dried their laundry, and by lying along the eaves over Arvel's window, be able to hear everything they said. But the murderer hadn't wasted any time. I'd only set my foot on the first rung of the ladder to the roof when Arvel cried out. Now I moved as if I hadn't seen the killer standing frozen in the shadows to the right of the door, stepping further into the room, as if about to kneel down by the fallen man to check for a pulse or turn him over. That gave the terrified youngster, all right, so he was hardly any younger than me, in years at least, his chance. If he had tried to flee out the door behind me, I would have followed him as he bolted for home, to find out who sent him. But panic had boiled up into elation and fierce personal hatred. He recognized me, just as I had him. Blonde, brown-eyed, soft-featured, one of the Hallowlanders who had attacked my lord and me in the Hallisford Library last spring. He swung at the back of my head with the first weapon that came to his hand, a heavy earthenware water jug. At least he had the sense not to shout, but you can't sneak up on a witch. We walk in a sickening sea of other people's emotions. Anyhow, I heard him move. I caught his arm and bashed it against the edge of the door. He dropped the jug with a crash. It broke. So did his wrist. He fell to his knees in the spreading flood with a whimper, but still didn't cry out, and the next moment he had lurched back up, a narrow boot knife in his other hand. He almost took me by surprise. I caught the knife just in time, before he could plunge it into his own ribs. "Fool," I muttered, and held him against the wall a moment, feeling my way into his scrabbling, terrified animal emotions. Fury, terror, relief that he was still alive after all, howling misery. It's a shameful thing to see anyone so. Deeper, deeper, there. Hand on his head, I shoved him into sleep, nice and gentle. As he slumped against me, I lowered him to the floor, closing the door. No one had come to investigate Arvel's dying cry. It was almost noon, and the fried fish shop 5 stories down on the ground floor was a roar of customers shouting for attention at the street front counter, the mistress of the place hollering at her daughters in the kitchen. "So, my lad, what did Arvel have that they sent you to kill him for, I wonder?" I searched the young man's purse and checked his jerkin and doublet for hidden pockets. He was carrying quite a lot of money, and another little blade in his hem, but that was it. And yes, the boy was wearing an amulet, a fine enamelled disc, silver and red. His comrade, whom I'd killed, had worn something similar, and in a vision I'd seen another dead man with the same design tattooed on his hand. I had come to know that pattern well, a series of concentric circles, each joined to the next by a short line placed, apparently randomly, between each ring. The symbol of the Yehalon was what Master Arvel had labelled it in the coded notes my lord and I had stolen from him the past spring. What it meant I still didn't know, but I was suddenly a lot closer to finding out. Master Arvel lay in a puddle of blood. In reaching for wine cups from a book-laden shelf, he had turned his back on the boy. I didn't think much of Arvel, but I pitied him then, and I would cheerfully have finished off his killer if that wouldn't have made me just as wicked, murdering a helpless man. Besides, the boy was going to be very useful whether he liked it or not.